Wednesday, excuse me, March 13th, 2024. Um, and yay, the View ladies talked about something other than Donald Trump today. Um, and maybe they listened to my recording yesterday because I complained about it and talked about Kate. But anyway, um, so we started talking about the hearings in the House about the report on Joe Biden and the documents that he um, mistakenly took and kept in his house, I think in Delaware, and the report that from the DOJ that had been written, and I think the man's name is Robert, but I'm not sure. Hur, not Her, and Hur just resigned from the DOJ, so now he's testifying as a private citizen, which I find weird. I feel there's some sort of angling going on there for fishing for something, but the Republicans and the Democrats both kind of took him to task, but for vastly different reasons. And of course, Sarah Haynes is like, I just think if everybody's mad, then then there must be a reason that it can't be true, and both sides is them. Uh, excuse me. Well, Sonny was very particular about what he did was specifically partisan because he put in his summary things that weren't part of his investigation. He theorized, and that's not something you're not supposed to do. And she had a really difficult time making the point because Amy Alyssa Fairfield Griffin just kept interrupting her, trying to sort of combat her statements and debate her. Shut up, Amy Alyssa Fairfield Griffin. Sonny's actually making a valid point, and a legal one that has sort of legal precedence that this is just not the kind of thing you don't editorialize in your reporting, which is what he did, and to the point where he characterized things in his summary that aren't backed up by the actual transcript and the detail. So the Democrats in the House were poking holes in his summary, and the summary is what all of the articles were written about and got all the press. That's what Joy's point was. Um, but in the text of the conversation, and in the transcript, he says you have a near photographic memory, and he's talking about specific things, and he characterized Biden as not knowing when his son died. He knew the exact day. It's like he mischaracterized things um, in the summary that and editorialized in a way that he shouldn't have. So um, the Democrats are poking holes in the summary, showing the inconsistencies, uh, and and taking some swipes at Trump in the process. They showed the Eric Swalwell clip where he showed um, Trump just not even making sensical sentences. They didn't show the clip, and I don't remember who it was. Someone asked, "Did you find evidence that that Vice President Biden paid $130,000 of hush money?" Which I think is funny, just to sort of needle that stuff in there. But the Republicans were mad, and they didn't really focus on this on The View. What the Republicans were really mad at is the fact that the transcript was released, um, because it contradicts the summary, and they liked the narrative that they could run on in the summary, and now they're stuck. Um, so, so he kind of got a little bit of chiding from both sides. Um, but things like that, it is all political theater when it's televised and it's something that's sort of that hot button. um, they and this isn't a new tactic. They use those opportunities, the members of the House, to run their narrative. It's just, unfortunately, every time the Republicans come through on television, it's always political theater. The Democrats at least have an injection of substance into the things that they usually want to talk about or investigate. But you know, who am I to say which party is better? Oh, and then they talked again about Princess Kate and her and her photo issues, which I talked about yesterday in a separate post. Um, and it's interesting that the conspiracies that that once you start to look for things, it's like, hey, stuff doesn't add up, and it specifically doesn't add up when it's coming from an institution that is known for its very specific manipulation of the press. So they must know what they're doing. Um, and for Whoopi to defend Kate so stridently, I get that this kind of speculation, this kind of stuff is difficult when it's happening to you, and I can appreciate her stance on it. That this kind of gossip fodder on television is harmful, and it's not cute when it's about you. But to Sarah's point, the way that they are going about this, they're feeding conspiracies. So you've got to wonder why, because it can't just be accidents and whoopsies, and for them to sort of just throw Kate under the bus and be like, "Oh, she doctored the photo. It wasn't us." Um, it's but they're still protecting her in this shroud of secrecy. So it is all very weird. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to talk about. But it's sad that you have to sit there on television and remind people, hey, we don't actually know. We're just, we don't know what's happening. We're just talking and theorizing. Um, and it does sort of, you forget, and I imagine it's difficult to remember when you're a member of the media, like all of the hosts of The View are, that you know people forget and they take things that you say um, as truth, which is weird. Um, but that's about failure of the American education system, though, which we could go on about forever. Um, And then there was discussion with Governor Hochul from New York. And I'm sorry, but the National Guard in the subway system checking bags is performative. If you really want them doing the work, you put them on the trains. They have to ride the trains. And no, people standing around in the subway stations with long guns does not make people feel safer. As soon as you see armed guards around the train stations, the question in your head is, what's going on? And you're getting on a train, and am I going closer to the danger, or am I going further away from the danger? It's not that's not a comforting feeling to New Yorkers, because there's just too many opportunities for things to go wrong. And when a police presence shows up like that out of the blue, it's like somebody knows something more than what we're being told. And so, you know, I would just like to know what I'm supposed to be afraid of, when choose whether or not to be afraid of it, rather than just have this blanket. Let's just throw a bunch of guns, armed guys and ladies into the subway platforms searching bags. I don't want you looking through a bag. I want you watching what's going on the platform, and I want you on the fucking train. And the problem isn't Grand Central. It's all the outlying stations where there usually isn't any kind of presence. So yes, to put all those guards in Grand Central and Port Authority. Port Authority already has them. They're always upstairs. Now you just put them downstairs on the platform and looking through bags. It just slows everybody down, creates a bottleneck, um, it raises tension. It's a dumb idea. But I also did mention bail reform the other day, that it doesn't work as the blanket, no cash bail, everybody goes free. You have to be able to have some discernment. It was interesting to me to listen to Joy be like, there was body parts all over Long Island, and there were 4 suspects, and how come they just get to be free? Because they're not charged with anything, Joy. You can't, and that's the whole point of no cash bail, is that you can't just put someone who's a suspect um, in jail and let them sit there for 4 years before they get a trial, and then it turns out they weren't guilty. You've ruined someone's life whose life didn't need to be ruined, because you didn't get enough evidence, and you didn't make the right call about who the perpetrator might have been. So it's a, I mean, it's a difficult sort of blade to balance, but you have to, uh, it's really about people on low level drug charges being sitting in jail forever. It's just not, it's not necessary. Um, but I do think, when you're talking about someone who's in the country looking to gain residency, and they go and beat up a cop, which happened in the city. You don't let those guys go. Like that's not um, that's that doesn't make any sense. And of course, every time it happens, the only crime that the Republicans care about is crimes that immigrants commit. Um, they're mad about one woman who was killed by an undocumented immigrant, um, but they're not mad about the hundreds of thousands of children that die in school shootings. So it's again, Whoopi says this all the time. When it comes to November, which world do you want to live in? Because there's a stark difference between it, the world that the Republicans are talking about, and the world that the Democrats are talking about. One has democracy, and one does not. And uh, you know, uh, you touch those fucking Medicare and Social Security, bite my fucking ass. That is a non-starter. It should be expanded. We shouldn't be doing things later that should be paid back, and no one should be taxed on those benefits because we paid for those fucking benefits. Anyway, that's my Wednesday rant. It is nice enough. I had 3 yards of wood chips delivered. I'm going to spend my afternoon spreading those. As you can see, I started a jigsaw puzzle when the weather was crappy. It's of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It's very hard. And that's just going to sit there until the weather gets bad again because otherwise I'm going to be outside.